New study uncovers how the rich view the world entirely differently than the average person. This is going to be interesting. Let's get into this one. Get a trade. That way you will never starve to death. Have you heard some variation of that advice? There's nothing wrong with getting a trade. You can become a wealthy plumber. But listen to the second half of that sentence. Did it say so that you can become all God intends you to be? Is it so that you can let your light shine, so that you can become wealthy, so that you can achieve your goals? No. It's so that you never starve to death. This thinking comes from a place of desperation, and that's the thinking that's handed down from generation to generation. The weird part is, it's completely invisible to us. I want you to look at this image right now on your screen. What is that, you ask? Well, it's an Industrial Revolution era factory. Rapid industrialization first began in Britain, starting with mechanized spinning in the 1780s. What other buildings today have the same look, or very similar? Schools. Here's an interesting one. Schools are run according to the Industrial Revolution age of thinking. Picture this for a second. You drop your kids off at school, or you as a child being dropped off at school, and you line up in neat little lines, and the boss, aka the teacher, blows the whistle, rings the bell, or shouts, and in your neat lines you go to your workstations and you sit down. You sit down at your little workstation and you work for a number of hours, and then the boss, aka the teacher, blows the whistle, rings the bell, or shouts, and you take out your little lunchbox so that you can have some food. Then the whistle goes again and you go back into your workstation, you sit down, and the cycle continues. It is run according to an Industrial Revolution era factory. Why? Because we are training human beings to be cogs in a system, and we're still doing it to this very day. Schools these days are badly run. They are nothing but brainwashing institutions that are run by the government and people with lots and lots of money who want to control the masses and have all of them programmed like neat little robots. We have thoughts that are invisible to us. We are told what to think, not how to think. We are told to blindly obey whoever is the authority. We are told how to act, and we are told what is the so-called right way of thinking and the so-called wrong way to think. And if you don't do that, then you need to be so-called re-educated, or you need to seek help because something must be wrong with you. We are molded to act in a certain way that no longer makes sense in the modern economy. The old thinking says to be a cog in the machine. Fit in, don't make waves. And if you're a perfect little cog, you will get a tiny bit of money at the end of the day. Then you can go home. My friends, that way of thinking will keep you poor. This is called the backpack way. It goes like this. The parents get hold of their child and they say, "My child, you are young and strong. You must go out into the world and earn little coins." Here's how you do it. Pick up your backpack, load it full of items, and for every hour that you carry your items, you will get one little coin. If you want a second coin, you must carry your backpack for a second hour. Now, we think like that. The only way to earn coins is to work a set number of hours. So let me go get a job and be dependent on a boss. Now, you work your set number of hours every day. You carry your backpack for your set number of hours, and a horrible thing starts to happen. You start to realize that you can't quite afford the car. You're not quite breaking even with the kids and the education and the debt you have. So what do? You go back to the thinking that was handed down to you, and you say, if I'm not going to get the coins, what do I have to do? I must carry another backpack in the evening, or two at once, to get more coins. That kind of thinking keeps families in generational cycles of poverty. If you take anything away from here, you must listen to this part now. Do not tie your earnings to a number of hours you work. As long as we think that a number of hours equals a number of coins, we are in financial trouble because as human beings, you only have so many hours in a single day. Here is the wealthy person's epiphany. The way of breaking out of this idea is to dump the useless items in your backpack, get rid of them, and put tiny coins that are made out of gold instead. In other words, for every hour that you carry the backpack, you need to raise the value of your work, earn more coins per hour, and not work more hours in order to get more coins. Resenting the wealthy says more about us than it does about the wealthy. Has your family ever used a phrase like, "how the other half lives," when they talk about rich people? You know what it sounds like? It's like the rich people are from a completely different species. The way I'd like you to start looking at it is the difference between where you are and where wealth is that it's a curve, not a massive hole. Because is this a curve? You can move along that curve. You could go from where you are now to your goals. But if you buy into that thinking that says rich people are just a different species, then instead of a curve, there's just a massive black hole between where you are and where you want to be. If you don't believe that it's possible to move along that transition, you don't act in ways that start to move you there. The starting point in becoming a high net worth individual is the belief that it is possible, that a wealthy person is not a different species, they're just further on the path than you are. They have more education about what brings in money and how to achieve goals than what you currently have. And that's okay, because that represents hope, which means you can learn these things and do them too. Resenting the wealthy says more about us than it does about the wealthy. We often think about wealthy people as they're all evil. Not a single one of them is good. From billionaires to your neighbour who simply has $1 million in the bank, they're all demons. Forbes magazine paints a different picture. They take the highest earning individuals on the planet and they look at how much they give. The stats bear out that wealthy people give more per capita than anyone else. We're not talking about the more money simply because they have more money. We're talking about more per individual in percentage form. The idea that wealthy people are only stingy and evil is made up. It's not real. Of course, some people are evil. You will meet the odd, horrible rich person. They are always out there in their numbers. But by and large, it is not a valid rule. That's number one. There is a difference between people who fail and succeed in anything, and this applies to wealthy families too. They teach their children something very different from what is taught in middle or poorer classes, and that is how to interact with authority. The middle class and poorer people are taught to fear authority, which is the Industrial Revolution thinking. You've got to fear the guy who runs the factory because he owns your life. Let's take an example. If you're taking your child to the doctor, the middle class family will teach the child that the doctor is almighty. He has studied for 8 years and he knows everything there is to know. You as the child must keep quiet, and even if it hurts, don't cry. Just wait for it to be over and do whatever he tells you to do. Now, wealthy families approach the same situation completely differently. While going to the doctor's office, they tell the child, the doctor is your friend. He has studied for 8 years so that he can serve you properly. How is that? The doctor is a resource that you can use. If you have any questions about your health or about anything you want to know, then you must ask the doctor because it's their job to help you. Now take that kind of thinking, that simple example, going to the doctors. But now take that kind of thinking and amplify it over the next 20 years. Which of those two kids is going to do well in life? You've got one who's taught to fear authority, shut up and keep their voice down, don't make waves. And the other one who's taught that the world is their oyster, utilize it, it's all resources, you can use it to your own ends. Imagine the difference that would make. Represent yourself. We need to teach our children to represent themselves as well. We have been conned into a industrial revolution myth that says the authority is in charge and knows best. You must shut up and do what you're told. You must be a cog in a machine. If you are doing your job perfectly and not making waves, you'll be fine. That thinking is 100 years outdated. We cannot teach it any longer. I thought to myself, just a mental exercise, if I was stripped of all the stuff that I use every day, the suit, the car, the equipment, the bits and pieces, the toys, if I was stripped of all of that and just left with my knowledge and my wits and my education and put into this scenario of living in abject poverty, could I get back out and back to my own life? And could you? Most people around you might be able to say, yeah, kind of. Now, that's an interesting thought. Let's take it a step further. If I had to take a high net worth individual, a millionaire or billionaire, someone who does drive the Ferrari, someone with their own private helicopter and with their own business, and I transplanted them into your life, do you think they would be able to get out? If we say yes to that, then what we're saying is the gap between where you are and where that person is all in your mind. Isn't that crazy to think of? But at the same time, it represents hope because it means it can be done. It means that the thought is out there, the ideas are out there, the knowledge and education is available and can be accomplished. We've been taught for generations that to play it safe, you've got to get a job, don't make waves. That is the most dangerous thing that you can possibly do because you are taking all your eggs and putting them in one basket. You are taking your life, your future, your career, your spouse, your children, your medical aid, your debt orders, your entire life, putting them into one basket and handing them to a person whose first concern is, well, not your welfare. That sounds pretty dangerous to me. Also, 60-70 years ago, people did get a job and worked 40 to 50 years and retired nice and safely. Does that happen anymore? Look around, the answer's no. It's just not the reality. Most companies these days, if you get a job, you have a few days of safety where they are putting you under a trial phase and then that's it. Now, let's look at this differently. People say being an entrepreneur is risky and being your own boss is risky. Well, Forbes magazine says the only wealthy people are those who are their own bosses. The next thing is, if you are an entrepreneur and you try 10 big crazy inspired ideas and 8 of them fail, you got 2 of them working. Now you go out there and you try another 10 big crazy inspiring ideas and again 8 of them fail, 2 of them working. Now you're up to 4 things that are bringing in income. You go there, 10 big crazy things, 8 fail, 2 more. You're up to 6 things now that are bringing you income, multiple streams of income. Now that sounds much better, doesn't it? Risky is the new safe, safe is the new risky. And the more we buy into the old industrial revolution era that having a boss take care of us is safe and the only way to do things, the greater the danger we put our own lives in. I believe that risk aversion is one of the things that paralyzes most people in the middle class. Your average high net worth individual has been near or even completely bankrupt more than once. How scary is the idea of going bankrupt to you? To them, it's a matter of course. They've tried big crazy things, they've tried building up businesses and they failed. But to them, it is only part of the process. And they do something interesting, which you should do too. They give themselves permission to fail. People today, at this very early stage in your career, make that commitment to yourself. Do yourself a favour and give yourself permission to fail. It's okay, you're not going to die. It's only a bit of embarrassment, it's only a bit of skin off the knees, it's only picking yourself back up and try again. Here's a revolutionary thought. Give other people permission to laugh at you and mock you for trying to be better. Let it be okay. Say, I know my family are not going to understand. I know my friends are going to laugh at me. They're going to tell me that I'm crazy and I've lost the plot. You should play it safe and get a good job. Well, give them permission to think that way. Give them permission to laugh at you. Give yourself permission to try and fail. You need the space. You need the leeway. Be kind to yourself. In conclusion, this is the closing part. You are not separated from your goals by a number of years. You are separated from your goals by a number of action, and that is completely different. Years are just numbers. That's like saying 10 or 20 years from now, I will automatically be wealthy just because I've been living long enough. It's not up to years, it's up to you and your action that puts the ball back into your hand and gives you control and power. Remember, no one is going to give you the education you need to overthrow them.
The plain fact is that education is itself a form of propaganda, a deliberate scheme to outfit the pupil, not with the capacity to weigh ideas, but with a simple appetite for gulping ideas ready-made. The aim is to make good citizens, which is to say, docile and uninquisitive citizens. H. L. Mencken. The aim of public education is not to spread enlightenment at all, it is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level, to breed and train a standardized citizenry, to put down dissent and originality. H. L. Mencken. I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. John D. Rockefeller created the General Education Board (GEB) in 1903.
According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s dropouts or half-baked intellectuals are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black. You still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible. To get rid society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded and common sense people who would be acting in favor and in the interests of the United States society.
And yet these people who've been programmed and, as you say, in place and
Yes.
who are favorable to an opening with the Soviet concept, these are the very people who would be marked for extermination in this country?
Most of them, yes. Simply because the psychological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means in practice, obviously they will revolt. They will be very unhappy, frustrated people. And the Marxist-Leninist regime does not tolerate these people.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, follow and subscribe for more cool information. Also, click the link in the description down below because I put interesting things on there all the time. This has been Aventigo. Bye!